Today, we're about a week away from Roki Sasaki, give or take, making his decision of where he's going to sign next season, and the Mets may not be as close to signing Sasaki as we once believed. And we're going to cover a couple pickups on the minor league side on this edition of Mets Digest. How's it going, everyone? Flobo Boyce here, rocking with you on this crazy week here in January. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Mets, news and notes, what you need, the more important stuff is going to be right here on Mets Digest. Myself, alongside Mike D'Angelo, work tirelessly to give you the best content ever. So if you do us a favor, if you like the video, make sure you like the video, comment, let us know what you think, positive and negative, and subscribe to the channel. 3,000 plus strong are making this a movement, and a thank you. And on a personal level, even though I am from Brooklyn, New York, and my family still lives out in Brooklyn, I currently am living in Los Angeles. And as the city is under siege by many wildfires happening simultaneously, I like the fact to be able to do this job and report the news for you to keep my mind off of what can be a very, very bummer of a day. So let's get into it. Today's top story is Japanese pitching sensei Roki Sasaki. And you know, if you're about the Pete Alonso sweepstakes or the Juan Soto sweepstakes, it feels like every day there is something new, something to be in a twist. Remember, because Sasaki is so young, during his posting period, which is between January 15th and January 23rd when the window closes, potentially all 30 teams can sign Sasaki. About 20 of those 30 teams sent materials. About 8 of those teams had meetings with Sasaki, and the Mets were in each of those groups. The idea was we didn't really know where we were in the pecking order. Were we number 1 position? Or were we number 2 position? We had a lot of things going for us. The pitching lab, the fan interaction, being able to develop not only pitching stars, but just develop the brand and culture as well. But we had some disadvantages. We're not a West Coast team. A lot of teams have more winning records, which, you know, those winning records teams tend to be a lot more popular abroad. Hey, just calling it how I see it. So we didn't really quite know where we stacked up. Well, a couple days ago, as I record this, SNY insider Andy Martina, who also co-wrote the captain's David Wright's autobiography, which I had just finished reading. A shout out to David Wright's getting his number retired. But anyway, Martino reports that the Mets are not as close as we originally thought about being in on the Sasaki sweepstakes. He was on Hot Stove, which is a program that airs intermittently on the SNY TV network. He writes, quote, frankly, I'm not hearing a lot of optimism in the industry that the Mets will be the team for Sasaki. So it seems as if what we see now in the rotation is going to be pretty much what we roll into the season with. Ouch. Yikes. And all that jazz. Okay, we know that David Stearns was going to get out the checkbook and just sign free agent aces for the sake of it. We saw Corbin Burns say, okay, I'm taking my business back home to Arizona. So maybe it was all wishful thinking. But a Roki Sasaki situation, even the team believe it was nice to have, will be a better to have for us to give us more flexibility in our rotation. A lot of talk has been talked about a rotation. Here's a graphic that I clipped for the December 25th episode of Mets Digest. In fact, it was posted on the 23rd, but I want to bring it back up again also from SNY about the rotation as it stands right now. There are some bright spots in there, namely up top with Sean Manaea resigning with the Mets. Kodai Senga has a chance for redemption after that more or less lost 2024 season. And David Peterson, even though is historically someone who's been frustrating last season, he was really great for us. And then you have that second tier of question marks. And the second tier of question marks are Montas, which basically is in that Severino mold of being a reclamation project, had a couple bad seasons. Can we save him? Can we fix him? And then Clay Holmes, someone who is a solid pitcher, but in relief that we know, will he be faring well going back to the starting rotation? Can it be done? Yes, Seth Lugo is pretty much a testament to that, but can Clay Holmes do it is something that I always wondered. And of course, the 6th-man, 7th-man up, that trio of Paul Blackburn, Griffin Canning from the Angels, and Tyler McGill, and you can't forget about whether or not you're still going to have Dejiel Nunez in the mix with his injury history, and Jose Buto, who pretty much was a Swiss Army knife for the team. Starting games, long relief games, short relief games, the setup man, the closer when Edwin Diaz was going through his stuff. Where does he fit in the 2025 roster? It's a shame, though, about what that means for the team. And so MLB actually had some fun with this because, again, next week, January 15th, opens the international reset pool. So that puts everyone with full money forward. And, of course, the 23rd is when Sasaki's posting period ends. So it's about a week before he decides. MLB.com decided to ask some people that know and executives what he thought the team would be the one to sign him. A lot of West Coast teams getting love. The Giants was kind of an interesting choice for me. Also, it makes sense. There's a huge West Coast presence, and the New York Giants and San Francisco Giants is a team name that also appears in Japan and the Yomiuri Giants. And then you look at the Padres. We talked about this as far as my personal commentary, not a news situation, but with the strife the Padres were having with their money woes and organization woes. It's a great chance to have a competitive player for cheap to keep the good times rolling in San Diego, because if not, they are projected to have a bit of a regression with the win-loss record. And of course, the number one choice is LA. Everyone wants to be a Dodger, the world champions. The Dodgers signing everybody. I got to get to the point where I would hate to be in the dugout when they are posting the open day rosters at the end of spring training, because there may be a lot of surprises of those who don't make the team when it's all said and done. So Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and then in that 11% is other teams, with teams like the Cubs and Mariners getting a vote. You don't see the Mets anywhere on that graphic. That's something that should give you just a little bit of pause. What happens next? Let me ask you, if you're watching this video right now, you don't get Sasaki, what do? You try to promote from within? Do you kind of rely on guys like Brandon Sproat? Or do you say, hey, look, there's some chance to get some relievers out there? I hear Scherzer is unsigned. I'm kidding. I wouldn't sign Scherzer. Speaking of those who were signed, though, the Mets were busy picking up a pair of players for their minor league system. First up is Travis Swaggerty. Swaggerty last play at the major league level at the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. Last season, he was in part of independent ball, or MLB partner league ball, with the Kansas City Monarchs. He had a respectable line, batting a .378 OPB and an .800 OPS. Swaggerty joins the organization. Hasn't been assigned yet as of this recording, but will definitely probably be in the minor leagues, maybe with an invite to spring training. When that is confirmed, I will let you know. And also, that wasn't the only signing as well. Speaking about those with major league experience and having a little bit of that independent ball flair coming back into the Mets organization, you got to give it up to Yanni Hernandez, who may be on that Jose Iglesias track. See, the infielder has played with the Rangers, Diamondbacks, and Dodgers at the major league level, as well as stints with the Brewers last season and the Long Island Ducks, which always seem to pop up when it comes to New York baseball and people getting chances with the Yankees or Mets. As a Duck, he slashed .325, .431, .392 with no home runs, 14 RBI, and 20 stolen bases. So not much for power, but neither was Iglesias before he got a chance to be promoted to the team. Remember, it's a long marathon, not a sprint. In the month of May, where the team was starting to get hot and Jeff McNeil was sat a couple games, Iglesias really became a part of that. That and the acquisition of Luis Torrens at catcher really was like the first ember to the spark. I'll always go back and say 2024 for us really picked up on game 2 of the London series, and both Torrens and Iglesias were a part of that, but those guys wouldn't have gotten a chance if these value finds weren't given an opportunity. Can I say value finds with the team? Hopefully Yanni Hernandez follows in that mold to be someone who could be valuable for the squad down the stretch. At the very least, though, maybe a bit of inspiration for our younger players. So what say you? Here's a question if you made it this far at the end of the video. If the season ended today, where would you grade the New York Mets as far as their acquisitions and deals, right? On one hand, you got Juan Soto. You fortified the defense in the outfield with Siri as well. You made some pitching acquisitions. On the other hand, you really don't have a first baseman signed as it is. And that idea of having one more ace probably is not going to happen in the traditional sense. So I'm curious where you would rate the front office, A, B, C, D, E, F, or if you grew up, when I grew up in New York, it was like E, G, S, and U. If you know, you know. That does it for me on this edition of Mets Digest. Thank you so much for checking the video. Flobo Boyce here, rocking with you again, one half of the team here. Want to read up on some of the blogs I write in sports, learn more at justthisandwich.com, and I'm also a contributor to the blackbaseballmixtape.com. And until next time, as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.